For those of you following the channel for so many years, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, you'll already know that Robotech gets a lot of love on this channel. Now, I grew up in the United States, so I know it as Robotech, but for the overseas market, you all know it as Macross. Regardless of whatever you called it growing up, it was a benchmark series, and for many of us, really exposed us to the whole world of anime. I have very vivid memories of my childhood, and what I was doing very early on, and the things that I was influenced by. And I can tell you one thing, one of the things that really blew my mind as a kid is the first time that I saw Skull Eater transform into a Battloid. I mean, it's just one of those things that I cannot, even as an adult 40 some odd years ago, cannot get it out of my head. It was probably one of the coolest things that I had ever seen. Given the themes and the maturity of Macross, it just kind of set the roadmap for the things intellectually I would be interested in later on in life. I've mentioned this before as well. In the early 2000s, it was very exciting to be a Macross fan because of all the merchandise that was coming out. And it seems like we're getting a revival in the 2020s because there's a whole lot of interesting stuff coming out for the Macross and Robotech lines, which I'm very excited about, and this is one of them. ThreeZero has now put their kind of products into the game, and it's given us an additional option in terms of Macross Robotech merchandising, and I have to say it's pretty interesting. So we are going to continue with a brief look at this line. Today we're going to be reviewing Robo Dou and ThreeZero's version of the VF1S Veritech, the Fokker version, the 1/60th scale, sort of. Let's take a closer look. And no, before I get a lot of shit, this is not going to be a transformation video. You're not even going to see the different modes. I'm going to focus on Batroid mode because ThreeZero is very Batroid-esque centric. Now, the head sculpt here is absolutely fantastic. This is definitely the iconic VF1S Fokker version with the dual quad lasers or antennas, whatever you want to call it. The palettes are done very well in terms of like the overall color palettes, I should say. And one of the things that really impresses me about the VF1S head sculpt is the very unique head module. It has this really nice green tone to it, tint where the optics are, and then of course you have that central red circular area. The tampo designs here in terms of the overall painting is really well done, especially the seam lines and the panel lines look great. Now, just like the VF1J, there is a little bit of an issue with the kind of proportions. Now, the center chest area seems a little bit larger than the VF1J. I don't know if it's just psychosomatic, but nevertheless, the panel lines do look very well. It seems like the chest area is protruding a little bit more than the VF1J, and you can watch that review. But the thing that I really like about this is you have the iconic skull and crossbones symbol, which is done very well. Again, proportions have always been a bit of an issue for the ThreeZero figures, particularly with the VF1J. This one kind of suffers from the same thing, but overall it does look very good. So props to them for that. Now, one of the things that ThreeZero does very well is the overall malleability and flexibility of this figure. It has a lot of points of articulation, and it is very sturdy. The thrust nodules at the bottom, which are basically the base for the feet, are done very well. They're very heavy and dense. There's some die cast in there, so it is very sturdy. Again, I gotta love the tempo designs, and the paints look really well done. I love how streamlined the legs are, especially with the canards and whatnot at the bottom of the feet. I did have a problem with one of the inner thrusters that kind of popped off. I don't know if it's just a QC problem, I couldn't fit it back in, but overall this is a brilliant lower design. And speaking in the flexibility and malleability, the degrees in which you can bend the arms is pretty outstanding. As you can see here with the gun pod, you see how retracted it is, very close to the actual chest area. It's a beautiful gun pod, and of course it has the iconic strap on it, which is really awesome. This one is a little bit stiffer than the VF1J in terms of adjusting the actual trigger guard, but nevertheless, it is absolutely beautiful. I've remarked on this before, it's a little bit more shiny than I would have liked when I was building the models, because I do like a matte finish, but man, is this thing beautiful, and of course, very iconic to the Veritechs. Now, one of my main complaints of the VF1J is the rear stabilizer module. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit flush like the Yamato 160 versions. It's kind of popping out at an angle, which is a real shame. I was kind of hoping that they would fix this problem in the VF1S. Unfortunately, they didn't. It seems like this is the exact same mold, and I get it, it's to keep costs down, but I really wish they would have improved upon this. But you do get some really great detail on the reverse side, particularly with the wings. The panel lining looks great, and then you get to see how the sturdy, or just how sturdy this piece is. The shine on the rear thrusters are really done well, but again, it's just a shame that that rear stabilizer is still an issue. Now, I keep remarking on the scale of this figure because I honestly don't know what it is. It falls somewhere between 1/72nd scale and 1/60 scale, but if you look at the actual rockets that go underneath the wings, this is why it is always a little bit off. They look like they're too small for this piece, and it's just really weird. Now, they're they're not as detailed. They're basically the same ones as the VF1J, so no surprises there. Now, you do also get 2 additional accessories, which is the antenna that basically comes on when you're in Guardian mode or Gerwalk, whatever you want to call it, and then you get a tool that can actually help you transform it, because remember, the VF1J, and I know some of you gave me shit about this, they couldn't understand how difficult the transformation was, but unfortunately it was a pain in the ass to transform. I still stand by that. It doesn't mean that it's a bad figure, it just means that it's a pain in the ass. I think ThreeZero was aware of this, and they provided you a tool to make it a lot easier in terms of getting the landing gear out and various other things that you have to move around in order for you to transform. Now, you also get 6 additional hands for various poses. As I mentioned before, basically, this is a very flexible figure, and because of it, I think it's more figure-centric, because where it really shines is the Batroid mode. So definitely go nuts with the poses, because it seems like ThreeZero was really going for that aspect of it rather than the other molds. For the life of me, just like the VF1J, I can't understand why ThreeZero went with this just basic-ass, non-associated with Macross or Robotech base. It is just, it's gaudy and it's ugly. It would have been so easy to do a magnificent round base of the iconic Robotech symbol. It just would have been so cool to include that style of base. ThreeZero, if you're listening to me, please do that. Please make it an accessory. Please make it an option for future releases, because that would be amazing. Okay, so obviously saw them in the background, so if you are looking to see the different modes, you can check out my review on the VF1J. It's up there and it'll show you the different modes. It's not a transformation video, but it's the next best thing. They look wonderful together, and I think that Gerwalk or Guardian and Batroid or Battloid look absolutely fantastic. It's really in the fighter mode that I have a lot of problems with it because of the proportions. They're just really off. Now, one of my subscribers had asked me or had mentioned, hey, do you think that they're going to do super parts? I see the areas that are built into these molds where they can, so let's hope so and keep our fingers crossed. I also have one of the original Yamato 160 versions of the VF1S, and that is still my tried and true perfect version of these Valkyries, because it is perfect transformation. Proportions look very well in all modes, relatively speaking, and especially in the fighter mode. Now, where ThreeZero has a bit of an advantage is definitely in the Batroid mode or Battloid mode. So, you know, it is what it is, guys. I gotta be honest in my review. So, I have to say, I'm very impressed with what ThreeZero is trying to do. I think they are sort of lacking in certain aspects, particularly like I mentioned in the fighter mode, but I think I'm really appreciative of this line. I'm glad that we have it. I have the 160 Yamato so that I can have in my fighter mode, but I really can appreciate how amazing these look in Gerwalk and Battloid. They just look stunning, and I do think that in terms of the proportions, they look very similar to each other in scale, so I think they'll work in terms of a collection for displays anyway. Alright everybody, so that's my official review on Robo Dou and ThreeZero's version of the VF1S Veritech, the Roy Fokker version. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next RAUDEZA Reviews.